Hello, everybody. We're gonna just allow, I think, a few more seconds for everybody to log in and get situated. So just bear with us for a couple more seconds. Okay. All right, we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome, everybody, and thank you for joining us today for this book talk with Joe Snell on his recent publication, Our Assyrian Story. Joe is the 2025 Children and Popular Book Grant recipient, and this grant is jointly supported by the Assyrian Studies Association and the Assyrian Foundation of America. Our Assyrian Story brings together Assyrian stories and photographs published between 2017 and 2025 in the Assyrian Journal. The book reflects years of careful documentation, memory, work, and community engagement. This volume does not claim to represent a single Assyrian narrative. Rather, it offers a more curated collection of lived experiences, moments, and images preserved with care. And this book is available to purchase through either Amazon and Barnes and Noble online, and I think maybe in store at Barnes and Noble, if I'm not mistaken. And since we are all here for a book talk, we strongly encourage you, the attendees, to submit your questions you may have for Joe through either our Q&A section or through our chat. And we have about an hour here, so the more questions you submit, the more intriguing the conversation will be, and the more you'll learn about Joe's experience developing his book. So before we get started, I wanted to give a little bit of background into the work of Assyrian Studies Association and what we have done recently. Since our launch in 2019, we are a nonprofit that has been promoting the academic study of Assyrian heritage through supporting research, teaching, and as well as an intellectual collaboration among scholars in various fields. Lastly, we proudly held our second biannual Assyrian Studies Symposium at the Arizona State University that included more than 25 presenters from across the globe. The association also awards grants to graduate students conducting their research in Assyrian studies and partners with academic organizations to support panels and roundtables. Most recently, we have a call for presenters for the panel at a Middle Eastern Studies Association conference. And if you are interested in presenting or participating in that panel, we strongly encourage you to reach out to us through our email at info@assyrianstudiesassociation.org. Lastly, if you are interested in just supporting our mission or our initiatives or just want to get more involved, we strongly encourage you to do so. And you can visit our website, assyrianstudiesassociation.org, or again, you can also email us as well. I'll also be posting our information in the chat. So before we transition to more of our discussion in our book talk, I want to acknowledge my wonderful co-host, Dr. Julia Hallisey. She is the Vice President of the Assyrian Foundation of America. And thank you for collaborating with me today and with Joe as well, and the support for today's conversation. Julia, why don't you go ahead and take it away?
Yes, thank you, Alexandra. The Assyrian Foundation of America is a nonprofit organization established in California in 1964 to support Assyrians in need worldwide, to strengthen Assyrian education, and to preserve Assyrian language and culture. To advance our mission, we sponsor and promote educational and cultural initiatives that celebrate and sustain our ancient and vibrant heritage. We also provide scholarships to students pursuing advanced degrees in Assyriology and related fields of Assyrian studies. In addition, our foundation supports Assyrians facing hardship by funding Assyrian humanitarian organizations around the world. In light of the historical and current challenges endured by the Assyrian people, welfare assistance remains a central focus of our work. I'd also like to read a brief bio of our guest, Joe Snell. Joe Snell's reporting has taken him to Iraq, Lebanon, Germany, Paris, Belgium, and across the United States. He's currently a freelance journalist based in northern Iraq. He previously worked as an international video journalist for the Washington Post and earlier as a video journalist for Al Monitor, a digital news outlet focused on the Middle East. In 2025, he was part of a team that won the National Press Photographers Association's Best of Photojournalism Award. He was awarded Northwestern University's Harrington Award in 2020, the school's highest graduate honor. He's also a recipient of the National Scranton Gillette Fellowship and the Radio Television Digital News Association's Vada and Colonel Barney Oldfield National Security Reporting Fellowship. In 2025, he published Our Assyrian Story, a book documenting the history and contemporary experiences of the global Assyrian community. He holds a master's degree from Northwestern University's Medill School of Journalism and a bachelor's degree from the University of Southern California, where he studied film and business law. He's the founder and editor of the Assyrian Journal, an independent online publication covering the global Assyrian community. So welcome, Joe.
Thank you.
All right, so let's go ahead and kind of kickstart this book talk. I'll go ahead and present the first couple of questions to Joe. And again, for those who kind of logged in a little bit later and missed the beginning, we want to strongly encourage you to submit your questions through the Q&A and also through the chat. So Joe, first question I have as I, read through your book, what motivated you really to compile those specific stories in your book rather than maybe write a more narrative type of history-based type of book based on your experiences as a journalist?
Yeah. Well, I guess I need to go back and give a good foundation on where this idea came from to put the book together. I don't know if you guys remember, 2 years ago, there was this big story about MTV News that was losing its digital archives. So it was nearly 30 years of articles, interviews, photos, videos that were just gone in an instant. And it's not the only place that that happens. That's happening at newspapers all over the country. I can imagine all over the world. Places that are losing their digital archives. And it happened at my local community paper in Texas as well. And that's decades of community history that's gone. I don't think we talk enough about how fragile the digital space is for how we're sharing some of these things. And then I started thinking about, I mean, imagine if that happens to the Assyrian community. I mean, imagine if in an instant you lose all those things that we've published digitally on these websites or certain places. Think about all the interviews we have, the articles, the photos. I mean, if that stuff's gone, think about how much history in the community you lose. So in that sense, I started thinking about, okay, not only is a book important, but it feels like existential in that sense. And there was an urgency to it as well. So the book sprouted from this idea of really to archive our community. And I think that's where you start to understand the structure. It's not, and I write this at the beginning of the book, it's not something that you sit down and you read from A to Z. It's something that you have in your collection that you can reference, you can pick up, you can like read every once in a while. It's for like researchers, academics, I think is the other strength of it too, is it's also just for like every like Joe Schmo that's out there. Uh, the language is pretty simple and it's easy to access for people. So you can pick it up without having like a ton of like background context on the community and like feel like you understand what's going on.
Mhm. I mean, it's very much true, right? So, I mean, part of your experience as being a journalist, right, a quite successful journalist. So, in terms of you being exposed to so many different types of people, especially Assyrians, as you're on, you're currently living in Iraq and you're interacting with Assyrians there, is there any influence from your experience as a journalist you pulled really to kind of shape this book? Or was it mostly just an idea that you've had for so many years and then you just decided to kind of, create it?
Well, it was an idea I had for many years. I think it started to come together once I started to develop that journalism background. I mean, you'll notice some of the articles are from 2018 when I like first started learning how to be a journalist, and then like the progression, I think you can tell with some of the writing too. But it's also like how you approach the story, and I think maybe there's like deeper conversations in our community about what it means to be a journalist. Um, like one, for example, is I think it's clear, or I hope people take away it's clear that there's no like agenda from this book. It covers a lot of different voices, a lot of different organizations, like some that don't get along, and in that sense, you really get a snapshot of like what the community's like, what the people are like. Um, and the second is like a foundation of objectivity. I think sometimes communities in general will sell an opinion piece that's like masked as like a news report or a news article. And I think like the more we can approach journalism from just some of like the core tenets, which are like report, get like a fresh or original voices on the ground, like build out context from it. Um, don't add any kind of like extra opinion into it. I think that's where some of the strength in this book lies. Is it's not like some rant that you'll find on Facebook. It's talking to people on the ground. It's telling you, it's just in simple like terms, telling you like what they're concerned about, what their life is like. Yeah.
I mean, with that, so you're giving a lot of voices to people, right, who are mostly affected by, I would say, either conflict, being displaced, or even maybe experiencing some cultural losses, because some of your stories are also about Assyrians living in diaspora in the United States as well.
Yeah.
Have you, or do you believe like personal narrative really shapes your collective memory of your identity, especially with your community, and especially as you interviewed Assyrians who again, who are living in diaspora. Do you think there's any you know that narrative that's being shaped by your memory that's really affecting maybe their experiences that you captured?
Uh, the way I think about like collective memory is it's like a big pool of information that the community can pull from and really starts to like draw its identity from. That's stories that we've heard, that's like myths that we've heard, that's like broader context about what was going on in some of these situations. And like personal narratives, I think we all have stories inside our communities or inside our families, excuse me, of like things that have happened inside our families. And the more we can add these to this broader collective that the whole community can pull from, I think that's when the like Assyrian identity starts to take like different shapes. For example, like a personal narrative that can be added to a collective, like community memory is like finding out that an Assyrian family lived in a particular village in Iraq, for example, that we didn't know where Assyrians were there. Or maybe you find out that like Assyrians existed there longer than we thought. Once you add that to the collective memory, then you start to understand the Assyrian experience a little bit differently. Oh, like our people actually lived in this region as well. So I think that's, I mean, going back to like archiving our community, that's why it's so crucially important because these stories don't just live in silos anymore. You put it into some like broader, like collective space, and then we can start to better understand ourselves.
I mean, definitely. And, as I again, read through the book and read through different stories, I was thinking about, you know, different age groups who are reading this book, right? Because it's not
Yeah.
a particular age group that you kind of target, right? As you were saying in the beginning,
Mhm.
it's a book for everyone. It's a book for Assyrians, it's a book for non-Assyrians, especially to learn about our story. But more importantly, I'm really interested to know if you have any advice for anybody, maybe journalist wise, if there are journalists, but maybe they're not a journalist, for those who are interested in reporting on their community. Again, it doesn't have to be an Assyrian, but do you have any maybe specific advice that you would give to somebody who would potentially want to create a story like what you have done?
Totally. I'm so happy you asked that question. Um, so a little bit context on how I came into the community, approached the community, which I think is similar to other people, is I didn't grow up around a ton of Assyrians. I didn't speak the language very much. I didn't have a journalistic background. And I I wanted to start telling these stories, and I just started reaching out to people in the community and just interviewing them. Hey, I'm starting like a website. It's like a free WordPress website, and I'm just gonna like start interviewing people and putting them on the site. Thankfully, people started like accepting my messages and doing the interviews. But
That's good.
yeah, thank God. But I think the story behind that is like sometimes I think we wait. This is maybe like more of a life lesson. Sometimes I think we wait for like certain money to be in place or certain education or certain things to be in place. If I would have waited for like a expert journalist background, or if I would have waited for like the nicest like film camera or something like that, I mean, this story would have been delayed for years. So I think maybe one piece of advice would be, I think these like dreams we have or these like projects we have are like sometimes more complicated in our heads to put together than actually just like sitting down and doing the work.
Mhm.
So just like it's as simple as just calling people and getting their story and writing it down, put it on a Substack, put it on a WordPress, something like that. Um, yeah. And then the other one too is just don't be scared to like reach out to people.
Mhm.
I think sometimes we have this fear of like, oh, what are people going to think of me, that kind of thing, or like, oh, they're never going to say yes to me. But I think we'd be surprised at how willing people are to like share their story.
Definitely. As someone who I have a very brief background in journalism, very brief. I mean, not as extent as you, obviously, but
Oh, I'm gonna have to hear
um,
about this at some time.
not in your book talk, but definitely, I think it takes some sort of resilience too to kind of to do what you do as a journalist, right? Because sometimes
Mm.
people are not so willing to tell their story. They're more apprehensive sometimes because based off of their own either their trauma, what
Oh
they've
yeah.
experienced most recently. Maybe they're afraid to kind of speak up. But I think the beauty of this book is that you kind of highlight different Assyrians and different versions of Assyrians, right? So Assyrians who from the homeland, who come from the homeland, Assyrians who migrated and who live in different communities across the world. I mean, the fact that you also just don't stop on what's on a certain set of Assyrians in a certain region is also really beautiful about this book and allows, I think, other Assyrians to kind of feel connected towards one another, right? By reading their stories. And maybe they pull a specific story that's really close to them because they've experienced the same type of, you know, thing that they've experienced. But I don't want to do all the talking. Julia, if you have any, I'm sure you have wonderful questions to kind of, to ask Joe, and then maybe we'll kind of delve into some of the questions we get from their audiences as well.
Sure, absolutely. So, Joe, one question would be, do you think that this type of storytelling, or I guess really any type of storytelling in our community, would have the power to kind of influence geopolitics or political outcomes even? How far do you think we could go with this? How powerful is it?
Well, I think absolutely. And we've seen that, I mean, just with journalism in general, in places like DC. I think one of the like big things going on in the US right now is when people like don't know about Assyrians, it just comes from a place of like they weren't exposed to it. And sometimes I think our community lashes out at people if they're not like they don't know everything about Assyrians, they don't know they exist in a modern era, they don't know like the name like thing. I think the smarter thing we can do instead of lashing out at people is just educating them. And I think stories like this go a long way to helping people understand that we're still here. And I mean, I think any Assyrian on this call has experienced at least once of telling people they're Assyrian, and then the reaction is usually, "Oh, I didn't know Assyrians still exist." So I think in this sense of like getting some of these stories out there, especially in like a physical sense, is just showing people we're here, like educating people. And then I think there's also like influence on the community itself. I think especially as we become more scattered and like for myself, I grew up in Indiana and there wasn't like a huge Assyrian community around me. And uh, if I would have had a book like this growing up, it would have helped me understand I'm part of something special, part of something that really has like historical roots. So I think it has that influence as well. Hope that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. And, if I could just throw in that my background is very similar to yours about not really growing up around many Assyrians or speaking the language. But I have actually kind of branched out and tried to do a little researching and writing, even for your online journal, which
Yeah.
I completely
Thank you.
appreciate. So, really,
Yeah.
my message to anybody would be to really listen to your advice that you can do this. Everybody has those stories or a family member or something that you could, write down or bring to light. And it really makes a world of difference. It was a great experience. You were very open to that. Other people have been open to it. It's really changed my life. So it's very easily doable. Everybody should really consider trying
100%.
trying their hand at that. It's not as hard as you think. It's a little scary in the beginning, but it's been
Yeah.
wonderful.
And I think there are a lot of people in the community that are willing to like help too. Like we don't have to do these things alone.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
I agree. I think working together probably makes it a little bit more worthwhile because you get to learn each other's experiences and also, support one another. And that's, should be seen in every community.
Yeah.
Should we go ahead and read the Q&A? Sorry, I have to put on my glasses because the size of the font is really small. So, okay. So I'm going to read the name, the first name of
Uh-oh.
the individual, not the last name, I think, just to maybe they don't want their last name out there, but from Tiamat. So,
Oh,
thank you
Tiamat.
for speaking with us about your book. Where is the best place for those living in the European Union, maybe, to buy it?
Tiamat, that is a great question. So right now it's available in the UK and we need to figure out like options to get it to other places. Right now people have been buying it in the UK and then like traveling to other places with it. But yeah, I guess the UK is the option right now.
I should also probably add that Assyrian Studies Association will also be selling the book soon. So just look out for also maybe an email from us, and we also ship internationally as well. So throwing that out there also, Joe, to support your book.
That was a good
Um,
plug.
yeah, that was a good plug. Okay,
Yeah.
Julia, would you like to read the next set of questions?
Yeah, we have a question from Shabnam, who I've actually met. So hello. What do you think is the number one reason that Assyrians have not made their presence felt in the diaspora after the genocide like the Armenians have?
I have this conversation with my friends all the time. I don't think that Assyrians uh I think we're coming around to it, but like understand the power of or maybe like leverage the use of media in strong ways. To educate people about us still being here, but also to like educate people about some of the challenges we're facing, and also some of the accomplishments too. I mean, we're like really talented, smart people that do great things. But I think leveraging media is something that we really need to like instill. I think organizations are coming around to it slowly but surely, but I think that's the number one thing in my head.
And then Alexandra, do you want me to go for the next question there?
Sure, go ahead.
Sherikan is, I recently published a chapter in a book. It is called Rosaries of Resilience From Genocide to Ritual. Now I am working on my mom's memoir. Excellent. I
Ooh.
recently presented at the convention and followed two online workshops, but they were not well attended.
Hmm.
My goal is to do an anthology of Assyrian authors and support women to write. We should talk. I'm hoping to start an Assyrian writers group that can meet online.
Please do. We could kick off an event at convention about like an Assyrian writers group, right? Wouldn't that be a good place to start it? Sorry,
Yeah.
I'm
Perfect
brainstorming,
idea.
Sharakeen.
I think that's what she's hinting at. I
Yeah,
think, I
yeah,
think I think we should, yeah, definitely. That's a great idea. I think also if you'd like to email either AFA or ASA, or maybe both of us, maybe we can also potentially help with that as well. So okay, let's go to our next question. So this is from Stephen. So I have a question for Joe. After publishing the book, have you thought that you could miss something or wanted to add something or maybe add some stories? Maybe we can see a second part in the future.
There is a second part coming out. And the thing that I really wanted to do in the second part was, I mean, we have communities in Syria, Turkey, Iran, also like Ukraine, Russia, like so many other places in the world that we can like talk about. That I'm really eager to like start covering those things as well. And another thing I want to do is like more featurey, enterprisey type stories, like broader questions that our community is facing. Like one I'm keen to talk about is like mixed Assyrians and do they feel like welcome in the community? Some of the challenges they're facing, like I think it's only an issue that's going to like grow more and more. But like broader stories like that as well. But
Definitely.
definitely communities from around the world. Yeah.
I actually have a question just based off of that question I just read. Are you also thinking, and this is not, maybe too on the spot, but that's the whole conversation for, are you thinking about maybe also having just a book of photography of Assyrians, like a
Yes.
full book
Yeah,
of
that's actually
photography?
happening.
Oh, it is.
That's
Okay.
actually happening. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
good. Yeah, because we love your photos. I mean, I know you're a very strong journalist, but your photography is also really beautiful. And I think a lot of people would love to see your storytelling through pictures as well. Um,
And I
so
think for a
this
lot of people that just can't go into these communities, it'll be nice to see what they're actually like. Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's so my family, my mother's side of my family, she comes from, Russia. So I would love to see, just being, slightly biased, but I would love to see also Assyrians living in Russia, maybe Ukraine.
100%.
And so
Yeah.
to kind of connect to that, because again, I've never been there. I haven't actually been to my homeland as well. And it's just maybe seeing photography from different, Assyrians around the world would also allow me to kind of connect with them. Um, so another question we have is from someone anonymous. Is there a passage from the book you'd be willing to read to us? Maybe a particular story that has especially moved you?
Oh, that's interesting. I kind of want to think on it.
Yeah, we
I
can
mean,
go
there's
back.
some of the Assyrian stories that do. So I don't know. It's for the people that aren't like familiar with the structure of the book. So it's broken up into different like themes, like arts and entertainment, and helping the homeland, politics, and then between each of the themes is a like an Assyrian story photo with a little story underneath, and then there's a section, it's like a short section of visuals, and then a short section of voices, which is just like quotes from people talking about different things. Um, Passage wise, there's one that like I don't know if my friend Ornina's on here, but she was starting to like tear up when she saw this. There's this guy from DeHook. Yeah, is it okay if I read it?
Of
This
course.
guy. Okay. Um, I grew up in Ashita. It's a village in Hakkari in southeastern Turkey. And in 1961, I came to DeHook. There was no Club Nisan parade. We were scared. Today, DeHook is 4 or 5 times bigger, and I'm really happy now. Recently, I went to Australia and then Lebanon, Syria, and Iran, but Iraq is a place for me. Our Atra is good, and you can't find this love in Australia. Every rock is in its place and is good. I think the thing that stuck out to some people with that is, I mean, we celebrate Cham Nisan in Duhok, and it's a big parade, and everybody from around the world comes, and we see all the pictures and the videos. Um, uh, there's like a lot of historical context that maybe people don't know behind that, which is that it was forbidden to celebrate for many years, and in the 60s, 70s, I don't know when. Well, I guess it was like the 90s they started bringing it back, right? Um, like when they started doing it again, it was like a really powerful like moment of like we're still here, we still exist in this land. And I think that's like sometimes when you read passages like that, it reminds you that like this isn't just like a moment to like party, this is like something much deeper than that.
Yeah,
Hope
definitely.
that makes sense. Yeah.
No, it does. And thank you for reading that passage. I think highlighting that story is really, maybe it gives our audience members who haven't had the chance yet to maybe read your book, but maybe, be more enticed to kind of look at specifically that passage. Julia, do you want to go ahead and maybe read the next couple sets of questions?
Yes, yes. So there's a question from Imama thanking you for the book. It's going to be
Yeah.
helpful as she continues her PhD project. The question is, what was most surprising to you while working on the project? And can you speak a little more on the connection or relationship between the diaspora and the homeland?
Um, yeah, I can talk about one of the things that was surprising to me. Was I think with all the different like communities I spoke to, it seems like we face like most of the same challenges. I think in particular one of the big challenges, which is retaining the language. Um, and I think, well, I know that's why I created like the structure this way. It's like you'll read about a community in Chicago, then you'll read about a community in Iraq, then you'll read about some place in Germany. Like it shows that we're scattered, but we all still like retain the same culture and we all still face like some of the same challenges. Retaining the language is also becoming like a problem in the homeland too. Norm Etty did a piece in the Eastern Journal about it. It's like the cropping up of private schools here means that a lot of kids just speak English all day. And like even here, which is was surprising to me, is like people are like starting to like lose the language. Now, not on the same scale of like the US and Germany and things like that, but it's happening. And that was interesting. What was the second part of that question? I think I just
Let me
lost
look
it.
here. It was, let's see
Oh,
here.
and the connection between the,
Yes.
yeah, I guess that touches on it too, is that like we face some of the same challenges here as we do there. Another thing too is that I think most people in the community know this. We can have better lines of communication between the homeland and the diaspora. And I think, and going back to media, I think media goes a long way to helping people in the diaspora understand what it looks like here, like put faces to some of the challenges that are being faced. Yeah, hope that answers your question, Amama.
Mhm. And then there's a question from Sargon, thanking you for your book talk. And
Sargon.
I assume your book is available in Atra as well. And what's been the reaction of our community to your book?
Sargon, it's not real. There's three copies here, and I've got one right here. So the plan was Chavnisan, we're going to bring a bunch and ideally do a book talk at the return or something like that. But I'm really curious to see what people think about it here. So I will let you know.
Have you received any interest from your publisher to publish the book in languages other than English?
Um, I should do it in languages other than English. That's I haven't really like thought about, or really haven't really like gone down this road yet. But I think that would be important to do. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be great.
What do you guys think?
I mean, I would love it in Sudeth,
Sort
but
of. Yeah.
that might be a little bit. I mean, it could be definitely feasible. It just depends on, your timeline and everything. But I think
Yeah.
publishing it in different languages would make it, I think, a lot more interesting too. I mean, and it can reach more people too, right? It can reach more Assyrians, more non-Assyrians living maybe in Germany, Sweden, I
Totally.
don't know, France, so on and so forth. I mean, I think that'd be, amazing. But again, completely up to you and your design and your creativity in terms of what you would like to do.
Yeah,
um,
I think it needs to happen. I think at this point it's just a conversation of capacity, but
mhm.
I think it's important. Yeah.
No, definitely. Okay, so I think we already answered the Sargon's question, so I'm going to go ahead and click that one out. So let's see. um, Kirsten, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. Congrats again on the book. Joe, have you received interest from a publisher to publish a book in other languages? Okay, we already got that one.
Thanks,
um,
Kirsten.
So from James. So the difference between um, Armenians and Assyrians is that Armenians have their own state. What are your thoughts about importance to
Oof.
Assyrians of establishing our own state, especially for the purpose of preserving our genetic integrity and preserving our spoken and written language? I think in pertaining to your book too, right? So maybe what has your book maybe done to maybe preserving the language and also our identity? Let's kind of reframe that in terms of that question.
So like, how has the book retained some of those things,
Mhm.
like the language and identity? Um, I think translating it will go a long way to helping people here like see some of those stories. Um, like touching on the importance of like a the own state to I don't know that's like an interesting question. I do think if we get this book in the hands of like academics or people that are like teaching in some of those fields, I think it would help like preserve the culture like outside the community. And maybe this is like a tangential, but something important to talk about, which is like telling these stories for outside of our community. I think we do a good job of telling stories inside of our community, but maybe this book is a way to like reach people in layman's terms on what we're like. So maybe in that sense, like retaining it like for ourselves, but also retaining it for some like global like information pool.
Mhm. So he also has a follow-up question. I think it's called kind of connected to his first question. So if you can recall, maybe the not, maybe an estimated percentage of any Assyrians you interviewed expressed any concern for the preservation of our written or even our spoken language.
Oh yeah, I mean that was one of the big things too. I mean even here you're saying that. I mean like manuscripts and things like that, some that are like in danger of being destroyed, some that have been destroyed. Like I think there's an urgency to like preserving some of that as well. I think there are a lot of strong efforts in the US to like digitize some of those things, which I think would be like a huge step. Um, yeah.
Definitely. Okay, let's see. Julia, is there any questions that like,
Let me see what's jumping out at me here.
okay.
This is kind of a hard one, I think, but how do you see the modern Assyrian identity connecting to the ancient Assyrian past?
Oh, interesting. Um, Well, I think the ancient Assyrian past is what like ties us to the land and like gives us that indigenous claim. And I think that informs a lot of the work that's being done on the ground and then in the diaspora. Like you think about like the land rights and just like indigenous rights in the like in some of these communities. I think that's all like grounded in a historical claim. Um, yeah. I also think there's a lot of like knowledge of like ancient Assyria and like from people I talked to in the US at least growing up. I think like this book is an effort to show them that like yeah, there's an ancient Assyria, but there's also a modern Assyria too. Like we're still here. Yeah.
I agree. That would be great. And just kind of a quick question from me, for what
Please.
you feel you can say to not talk too much about your maybe an upcoming project, but what do you see as kind of your ideal like digital archive? What might that look like? What could that do for us?
You're touching on a project that me and Jason Tamo were like really excited about. I hope Jason's on this call. But you mean what that could look like?
Yes.
Uh, I think it's like it's crucial that our community has something like this because I want everybody to like think back to 20 years ago. And if there was a like an archive of what our communities looked like 20 years ago, what the people looked like, what they were talking about, what the villages looked like, what the cities looked like. I mean, if we had access to something like that, that would be incredible. And it goes back to that collective memory of like what we know about our community, like what our identity is like, would probably like be shaped even more differently than it is now because we have all that information. And then I want people to fast forward 20 years from now. And if we had an archive that's like digitizing some of those things right now, if we're going into these villages and taking photos, taking videos, talking to people, and we put it in like a Getty Images type of like platform that people could type in, I want to see what Chelik was like. I'll type in Chelik and I'll see the videos, I'll see the photos, I'll see the people. I mean, think about how incredible that would be. And so many different people could use it. Academics and researchers could use it. Just everyday people could be like, oh, I'm like, my grandma grew up in Chelik. I want to see what it was like 20 years ago. People outside the community could use it in their reporting and their research. I mean, it has so many different like use cases, like even for outside of our community. That I think that's like talking about the media thing again. I think that's something that just it's not only important for me, it's existential for me.
Yeah, that's something that's very close to my heart because I was that person who
Mhm.
found out more details about my Assyrian history, went looking, of course, online, looking for exactly those things, like what could I find out about my grandparents' village and all of those sorts of things. And I really hit a brick wall. I was
Yeah,
shocked, actually, that there was so little information. And I've had this. Experience shared with other people that are kind of new to it, saying, I went looking online just for something as simple as people who looked like me. I was curious what
huh,
people looked like. And I've found people online that looked very much like my family members. It's exciting. It's really a way to connect. You want that information. We live in an information-based society. And then when you can't find that information, I worry that it will put some people off or they will stop looking. So we need to
100%.
put that information out there where somebody can exactly type in a village, a name, a
Yeah.
year, something, and read stories and see photos and have it, in kind of one spot where people know that that's a go-to spot to look. It would have made such a difference for me. It would have been wonderful.
Oh yeah. And anybody that's done a visual project in the community can tell you it's sometimes it's very tough to find like these visuals. Like they exist on like social media platforms or like Facebook platforms sometimes, like YouTube or like some of these organizations record these things, but it's not like a place you can like a centralized place you can go to like look this up. Or like a place you can go that like there's going to be like a quality video, there's going to be like a quality photo. So I think this is among the, if not the most important thing we can be doing right now.
Yeah, thank
100%.
you.
I think so. I think we all agree. I think I'm pretty sure everyone in this book talk will probably agree with that. Um,
Hope so.
let's probably we have a couple more questions. I think we have like about six or seven more questions
Okay.
before, and also let me plug this. So we have about roughly 15 minutes left. So for those who maybe haven't asked your question, maybe it's the time to do so right now. So let's see what we have. We have another question from, let's see, from Nancy. So when I met Assyrians from Iraq that spike a different Assyrian that, okay, when I met Assyrians from Iraq that spike a different Assyrian than I grew up speaking in New York, will this be
The
an issue
dialects. Yeah.
for keeping our language alive?
Well, I think there's some people that are doing some good work to capture I'm forgetting the word on it now, like the formal like dialects of these places. That's been a challenge for me with translating, Nancy, to be honest, is like I'll go into a place like my language skills are rough, and if I don't totally understand, I'll bring in a translator, and sometimes the translator doesn't understand because the dialects are different. So that's been a big challenge. And there's been work from some academics to try to like capture, I guess, the formal language or the formal like dialect. But even then, there's like discrepancies. So to be honest, I think that there will be a challenge, and we all know that people are going to like argue about like, no, this is the right word for this, this is the right word for this. I think at the end of the day, you kind of like push forward. And if we get like bogged down with some of those things, nothing's going to get done.
Mhm. So another question, this is from Cheryl Keen. Can you talk about, she has a couple questions. So first of which, can you
Okay.
talk about how long it took you to write this book? Did you know what the structure would be? Um, how
Mhm.
did it shape you to become what it was? And how was the editing and publishing process? And did you use AI to maybe do any edits or maybe any structural, ideas with that? But
Yeah.
well, the first, yeah.
Yeah. I'm happy that like some of these were asked. I Some of the first stories were written in 2017. I didn't have an idea at the time that this would be like a collection of things. I just wanted to like put these things online. I think that idea started to come together in 2020, or at least like writing a story about like the modern Assyrian community, like maybe during COVID or a little after. And then this structure started coming about a little bit after that. So I got my hands on a book called it was a collection of writing by Marie Colvin, who's like a really famous former foreign correspondent. And there was a collection of writing she did structured by locations she went to. And I was really like interested by like that structure in particular. And I thought it could apply for our community for one of the reasons I mentioned before, which is like you pit a story from Chicago next to a story in Germany, next to a story in another place, and you realize that like we're much more similar despite being scattered than it seems. So that's when the structure, over the past few years, the structure started to make sense. The editing and publishing process was it was tough. So I pitched this to a few different publishers, and there wasn't a ton of interest, and I understood. I mean, it's a niche book, and it's also a lot of the stories are older. So some of the comments we get at first were like, "Why would we publish a book of like with older stories?" But in my head, I still felt it was like really important. So I went down the independent publishing route, and I learned how to do all that stuff while I was like still writing some of the stories and sending it to some like former colleagues and friends that could edit. So like I'd be writing, and then I'd also at the same time be YouTubing how to lay this out in an Adobe InDesign, how to like send it to a printer. And thank God for my sisters. So a lot of the book, the final push for the book was done while I was in Iraq. So we tried out different companies. So I would submit something to like Amazon. They have like their own printer. And the books would come to my sister, and I'd FaceTime with her. She'd be holding her kid in one hand and then FaceTiming me with the other as the book came in. We'd look at the quality, we'd look at the picture, um, and then we tried a different company. And then once we found a company that we were like okay with the quality on, then it became a matter of like fine tuning different things. Like what's the cover? I think we went through like 4 or 5 different like covers before we settled on this cover. And then even from there were like 50 drafts of that cover. Like it was a lot. So thank God for my sisters. I don't recommend anybody try to do a book while you're overseas and you're like FaceTiming, but we made it work. So that was a thing. Yeah, but and then AI to edit or research, no. For editing, I would send it to like friends or former colleagues, and they would look, send draft back. I mean, thank God for some of those people. I would just I'd send them like a section of the book and be like, "Hey, can you read this?" and like do an edit on it. So it was helpful in that sense. Yeah, hope that
Okay.
answers your question.
Yeah. I mean, I hope so. If not, you
I
know,
should put my email here if anybody has follow-up questions.
yeah. I mean, I don't know if do you have, can you access the chat
I think I
section?
can.
Okay, cool. Awesome.
All right, people, I'm putting my
Um,
email here.
Perfect. Okay. Julia, do you want to maybe pick a few more and then we'll kind of save like 2 minutes towards the end?
Sure. There's question from Stephen. Your book is currently on its way to me in Russia. I can't wait to
Cool.
read it. So he has some
Oh,
questions.
that's so cool.
That is cool. What diasporas have you mentioned already in your book? Is there one that was the hardest to connect to? And he's interested if your book has any stories about mixed Assyrians because he's one of them, as
Yes,
am I. So I would love to hear the answer to that.
as am I. Um, we've talked about some of the communities in the U.S., in Iraq. I think there's like one or two stories in Turkey, one or two stories in Syria, a few in, I think there's like one or two in Germany, or maybe a few more. Um, But hardest to connect, I mean, Russia. I mean, I know we have like a very vibrant community. I would love to connect to Russia. Ukraine. I mean, this next book there'll be some like London reporting as well. Yeah, there's just so many communities around the world that we need to cover. Oh, I had some in Australia as well. I want to do more in Australia. I love that community. Um, and did I mention mixed Assyrians? Um, there are definitely mixed Assyrians in this book. I don't know if I like label them in that way, but they're definitely in there. But I'd like going back to one of my earlier points. I think this next book I want to do like broader stories, more featurey type stories. And I think that's among the top of the list, which is like um, covering mixed Assyrians.
And kind of a follow-up
Thanks,
from
Stephen.
Stephen, have you noticed differences between mentalities and
Oh yeah,
identities between Assyrians around the world? That is an interesting question because in one part of the diaspora, we don't always see people in the other part. So you have a
yeah.
better view, a broad view of that than we on the ground may have.
what's interesting is I think you absorb a lot of the community that's around you, and that's not only like language, but it's also like mentality, and you see that in how like organizations are run. You see that in how like people conduct themselves, like this community versus individualistic mindset. Um, uh, yeah, I've definitely seen like a lot of that.
And let's see, Sargon has a question. What does the future hold for our community?
That's the hard question, Sargon. I usually end my interviews with one question, which is if things continue the way they are, like nothing changes, where's our community in 10 years? And I, 9 times out of 10, get a very like bleak response. Whenever I ask that in Iraq, at least when I've asked that now, people are like we may still exist here, but it's going to be like a fraction of what it is now, which is scary because it's a fraction now of what it was 20 years ago. Um, and when I ask that question in the US, people say in 3 generations, like, are like we're scared that our grandkids are not going to be speaking the language. And we've already seen these challenges come up. I mean, I wish I had like this like rosy picture about like what's happening, but I don't. And I think that's why like there was an urgency to write this book is because I think a lot of people have this fear that in 3 or 4 generations, much less people are going to be speaking the language, like celebrating the culture. So that's why there's like a need now to tell these stories because we don't know what's going to happen 10 years from now.
Yeah, I agree.
Sorry, do you guys have more of a like a rosy picture of things?
I'm a political scientist, so it's going to get political. So maybe not.
Okay. Okay.
maybe maybe another discussion, probably
I
separate.
mean,
But
yeah, there are some like obviously there's some like positives. I mean, I think there are some like Assyrians here in Atra and the diaspora that are like really excelling in their careers, like doing very well. And I think they are like testaments to um, the talent that the community brings. I mean, we just have like a huge wealth of talent. I think like one positive coming out of this is like we're really going to excel in a lot of these different communities in ways that I think we don't yet realize. Um, but yeah, the flip side of that is like the language, the culture, like some of that stuff we really have to fight for.
yeah, definitely. I think just having more of a community and supporting one another goes a long way too in promoting that. And someone just made a comment about that's why we have, people like you, putting this book
Oh, thanks,
together.
person. Okay.
I'm sorry, I need to look to see who actually wrote that, but yeah, someone just commented that we just got a slew of more questions. We have about a few minutes left, so
Okay.
we have room for 2 questions left. Let's see. Let's go from somebody we haven't heard from. Let's see. Silva, from your experience, where were the people that
Silver.
were more active and proud of their identity and culture? And how could that be spread more?
I think it's very like individualistic. There are like some communities, and obviously there are a lot of communities I haven't like visited yet. But I think the community in Germany, I was like in some of my reporting was really like taken back by how um, like driven they are for some of these topics and like working like together in ways that I hadn't seen in a lot of other places. Um, so I think in that sense there was a lot of like pride and like working on these things together. Yeah. How could that be spread? I'm not going to harp on media too much. I do think this is an example of like telling people those stories. Like, how many people would know about like all those things that are like going on in the Assyrian communities in Germany without just like sharing those stories? And it doesn't have to be a formal like journalism platform. It can be like simply like sharing those things on social. But I think, that it goes back to larger questions. When you see like when you're a community that's sometimes like lost hope or you feel like a bit down and you see like optimistic stories or like stories of hope of like, oh, this community is active and doing these things. I think it sparks a bit of like hope in you too to like bring that to your community. I think that's media, man. That's what you got to do.
Julia, is there any question that kind of stands out for you to kind of to ask? Maybe
Yeah.
our last question.
So, Joe, do you see yourself going to Syria, Iran, Turkey, or Russia ever in the future to capture the
Yeah.
Assyrian communities there and perhaps do a book on that journey as well?
I see that that's my name. I didn't
Yep.
write that question. I gave someone my link because it wasn't working. I am actually pushing to get into Syria now, but I mean that's the goal. And that's the big reason why I'm in Iraq too. I was doing a lot of stories about here and only coming for like a week or two, or like covering Syria from like abroad, Turkey from abroad. Like when you go to a place, not only can you like visualize it in photos and things like that, but you really get like a flavor of what it's like. And I think that's when like really great reporting comes out. You can like report some of these details, like give people a sense of the texture, the feel, like, and capture some of those voices. I mean, this is something that anybody that's written an article can tell you. When you talk to somebody over Zoom versus in person, they just open up to you in a different way. So that's when you start to get some really insightful responses.
And there's a
Okay.
quick question. Were you able to speak to people in Assyrian or did you conduct the interviews in Assyrian? Do you use a translator? How does that work for you?
It's usually a translator. I'm working on a language. I can pick up the details, but it's I've had some phenomenal friends and colleagues that have like helped me in this process. But to be honest, like that's the thing that's holding me back the most. I can't just, I usually can't just like drop into a place and just, the dialect thing is another issue too, but I usually just can't like drop into a place and do these things. There's like a whole other like workflow which goes into finding a translator or finding a translator that speaks that particular dialect too is interesting. Um, yeah,
I
which
think
makes this book, I think, much more like that much more like interesting because I've had to have a translator for most of these conversations.
I was going to say probably there's a silver lining is that you get more people involved
Oh
in
yeah,
and they learn
totally.
more about different people and how they live and maybe they even have a connection they didn't even know about. It just again that sense of community is so important and I
That's
think that,
optimistic. I like that, Alexandra. That's
yeah, there's a silver
optimistic.
lining to
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, it's officially an hour has passed. So what that means is
Cool.
that we get to thank everybody for joining us here today for this wonderful book talk. We hope that you enjoyed it. You took a lot from it. You learned more about Joe, learned more about his book. Also, we encourage you to purchase his book, Our Assyrian Story. Again, it's available through Amazon, Barnes and Noble, and soon to be on the Assyrian Studies Association website. So if you do get our emails, be sure to support Joe purchasing a book. And Julia, would you like to also add anything before we pass off the mic to Joe before we end?
No, just to say thank you, Joe. I've really enjoyed your book. I love working with you. I hope to continue our working relationship in any way that you'll have me. So thank you.
Thank you guys so much.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Joe. Thank you, everybody. We look
Thank
forward to
you guys.
seeing you in the future.
Something I want to mention too, I put that my email in the chat. Please reach out to me for anything. Questions, like comments, how I can make it better. Anything. Just like have a conversation about like how things are going. Anything. Reach out anytime.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, everybody.
All right.
I guess.
Bye.